working out of my home office, so that's a good thing. But oh, by the way, yeah, Anna, I don't have to re-put that stuff in. That was there from last time now. So whatever that last patch was, it fixed it. So.
Oh yeah, I got the Zoom update now. That's why I'm a little bit late because it took
I just got mine too.
Yeah, I fired it up and it took some minutes to go through it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that fixed that, which is good.
Where am
I? Hey, my more first arrive. Having a good week so far. This is no game tomorrow night, but we have the game on Friday morning.
Friday morning?
Saturday morning.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was just
going to. Wasn't it Saturday?
Yeah, that's me.
Friday a bit better for me, but
that's me with a brain fart there.
No, it's okay.
That's all that was.
Friday a bit better for me than Saturday, so I was like, oh.
Yeah, no, that was me. That was me with a mental defect there.
Yeah, because I have an engagement at 11, so I need to. But it's 6 o'clock, 6 to 11, so hopefully we're done by 5 hours. But if
oh my God, yeah, because that's 11's 2 p.m. your time.
No, it's 11 my time. So
it's 2 p.m. my time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, we're scheduled 9:30 to 1:30.
Okay, good.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. 4 hours on Saturday morning. Absolutely. Well, we may have a surprise guest joining us. I'm not sure. We'll see. But everyone's confirmed for it, so it'll be good. Hey, Jim. Good to see you there, Insomnia and Jim. Good to see you. Hey, Seeker. Hey, there you are.
You're IB.
You got there. Awesome. Hello. So I know some of your VIPs expired. When that 5,000 turned in, I did for 2 weeks. I mean, that's barring me. I have 80 VIP badges that are mostly filled. Yeah, that'll re-up you, which is crazy when you think about it. I mean, a lot of them are like Eric Mona and Luke. I'm not gonna take theirs away, you know. So let's hit this one here. Well, that's cool. That makes sense. It's a desert, and I don't see why not. Hopefully, sound is good on our end there. Out to the audience, someone just let me know. Make sure that it's okay. Awesome.
Zombie, hey Zerathon. Josh.
Yep.
Josh. You mean I didn't even need to remind you? Wow. Awesome. That's awesome.
You know Josh has to do his best impression of a bad penny.
button. I couldn't find it. Too much multitasking.
Of the many ancient civilizations of the world,
I will have a brand new ad for everyone right after the Chiller Games one.
One of the oldest and longest lasting
it's pretty cool
in the history of the world, going back over 4,000 years.
I just used the
Troller Games is proud to announce our latest Mythos series project, the Codex Sonarum. The Codex Sonarum covers the might and profound wonders of prehistoric to medieval China, both historic and mythic for castles and crusades. With almost 200 mythical Chinese creatures and over 140 deities and heroes, the Codex Sonarum is filled with monsters, gods, warriors, and more on a level that will be truly legendary, told in a narrative true to Chinese history. It introduces the basics of Chinese martial arts and is complete with and the many legendary abilities associated.
Or did I shout? Yeah. I'm lucky for Josh. I'm lucky to remember what day it is right now.
And fortune telling. Even
I did shout him out. He's probably the only one I did.
Players can live out their characters' adventures in tales set in popular Chinese fantasy styles like wuxia and more, while within a pseudo-historical setting and brought to life by the castle keeper or game master.
Nice.
Researched and written by Brian Young, the wildly popular Mythos series delves into the mythos of the ancient world, bringing hosts of gods and heroes, legends and lore, and even the monsters and foes that plagued the peoples of ancient times to the stories that you create.
Okay. All right, here comes a brand new Gamescape 3D.
China to your table.
Nice.
Upcoming Kickstarter.
Pledge today.
Yes, this Kickstarter will be
starting,
I think, November 2 weeks. Blue box. Just in time for the new Lighthouse ad for the Kickstarter for Gamescape.
Nice.
Buildmaster Crafter's already got one. He's working on a prototype. So good to see you, John and crew. Hang in there. It's November 15th is the launch on this. Really appreciate the raid. So we already have one, and so Bill was really adorning it up pretty well. So there's Jeremy working on it. Good evening, Mike. Oh. It wasn't too long. Coming on. Look at that. We're 8 minutes early, everyone, so just note that.
Wow.
So, yeah. We got a raid in, so we'll get on here. We can just babble a little bit. You know what? I'll talk about all the stuff that's going to be going on. So, thanks, Al.
Good to see everyone this evening.
Yeah!
Yep. It's good to have you here, Chris.
Oh, thank you, Anna.
Yeah.
Great to be here.
I said in my post, an enigmatic area of Greyhawk. I don't know how else to describe it.
I think that's a good description.
Oh, definitely.
I've read through a large part of the Barry the Trader today, and my I'm as ignomous or whatever you might call it as I was when I started reading it. So it didn't ease my. And that was one of the reasons I suggested this, because it is an enigmatic area. So I wanted to have your more views on it, so to speak.
Yeah, well, thanks, the Storycaster of Dice Songs, man. That's a great name. So just note, we blasted past our 9,000 follower mark. I'm going to attribute that to a lot of Tiny DePass's followers. Followed us after the stream, which was cool.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, all right. Wonders of the Bright Desert. Now, we're like 7 minutes early, so I'm going to babble a little bit as people are coming on. Hey, Mike. Hey, Celestian.
Hey, Celestian.
Live. We'll come. come live and catch some of these. Catch some of the things going on here. So let me hit some buttons here. Boom, boom. They're going to be out of order. I'm just randomly hitting buttons. Good morning, good evening. I don't even know if it's evening, right? It's good evening,
It
everyone.
should be evening in your end. It's kind of afternoon here. So.
I'm J.K. Lord Gazumba. With me tonight for this great discussion, the legendary Anna Meyer and the great Oblivion Seeker Les Reno, who has the most knows everything about if it's obscure, he knows it in Greyhawk, which makes it such a great discussion.
I wouldn't go that far, but
well,
oh yeah,
oh man, you are a you know your stuff when it comes to literature connections into Greyhawk, which is really cool. And I'm going to be flat out honest. I am really devoid in that subject. I know some Tolkien connections, but I don't know what Fortevel, is that his name?
Yeah.
I don't know any of those. So it's great to have you on tonight for this discussion about an enigmatic area, the Bright Desert. But before that, let's talk about some things. There is no game tomorrow night. I had a bunch of my guys out. I only have one in, and it's a double Phillies-Eagles game thing tomorrow night. I just I'm going to take off. So instead, we have this. And let me just pop this up real quick while we have everyone on. If I can find it in here, oh, Jay, it should be right. It should be up. We have a special, that's the wrong one. That's Ed. Oh, boy. Here we go. And it should have gone over there. Okay. We have a special game on Saturday morning. So we're going to do the continuing adventures of Skarn, which is Mike Disney's character, his dwarf, and his great miniature that Moonlight Middies did. Skarn, and Anna's playing as Imri, her Sylvan Elf Ranger Mage.
Yep.
April Hill, Stiletto Assassin's playing with her. She has her Fire Elementalist, Elven Fire Elementalist. Rob Phantom, who's on, he's going to be playing a Dwarven named Durgrim Fighter Thief. Taryn, she's going to get on late. She'll be playing her Paladin, Ella Rothschild. Chuck Humbo will be playing Josh Death Dealer, and Buildermaster Crafter will be playing Farron Blackleaf. We'll have 2 Ranger Mages in the group. So, you're welcome. So that's what's good. Yes, it's very early for Anna, but it works in Anna's schedule.
Yeah, exactly. Have it been later, I wouldn't have made it. So yeah.
So it won't be a Saturday night special. It'll be a Saturday morning special. I'm going to be DMing here. So thanks for keeping the hype train rolling there, everyone. Really appreciate it. So I just wanted to talk about that, and then Sunday night, Gavin, we continue with. Why aren't these just popping over there? They should. We'll do part 4 of Dungeon Magazine Adventures. Probably Dungeons 93 to 99 will be where we'll be at. So, that's probably the ones we'll hit on Sunday evening. Anna, myself, and Tim, and we'll go through all those great Greyhawk adventures, and some that may not be Greyhawk that I may have played in that era there. So it's going to be a fun couple of shows coming up. So 3 streams this week, and then we'll get back into some really some great stuff the next couple of weeks. So Les, Anna, on this topic here, as we're almost at time, on this topic, how did you do your research for this?
That's a good question.
Yeah, Les, you go on first. Yeah.
Fortunately, I kind of had already done some research. Most of the campaign I'm currently playing in, we're going on, I guess, year 4 will be starting soon. The players started off in the Wild Coast, made up to divers and Greyhawk. Now some of the characters are up in Spine Castle. But the thing was that what I wanted to do with this campaign, because I started at the local game store, was I wanted it to be a love letter to Greyhawk.
Oh, cool.
Not just one particular era. I wanted it to have a very kind of Gygaxian feel. I wanted it to have a very old school kind of feel. But I also wanted to pay tribute to all the people who had contributed to Greyhawk lore over the years. And
awesome.
In the course of that, of course, Rary the Trader and some of the other Sergeant era stuff comes up. And then I came across some of, I won't mention how, but I came across some of the Living Greyhawk material.
So did I.
It was one of those things where, sort of like how, I had mentioned that with the controversial Narwhal material in Living Greyhawk, but they had taken the idea of the Drow and the Underdark from that Dungeon Magazine adventure. with the
Yeah.
fungus infection, and they just basically built on it. And I kind
Yeah.
of like that they did a similar thing. I'm saying that Creighton and Paul and the rest did some similar stuff with their bright desert material. They took some references that were fairly obscure. They took a piece Eric Mona wrote, and they really did just flesh it out in a really interesting way. So this has been feeding into stuff that my characters hear from time to time when news reaches them from Hardby, or news reaches them from wherever. They get little bits and pieces of what's going there, and hopefully within the next year or so, we're going to turn our attention to the Bright Desert. So
That's cool. And note that hey Junior Jr. They get to visit another plane. Ooh. So Jay will enjoy running his nights through Core 8, Pyre of the Righteous. We may get that we may get to some of that discussion tonight, Dale. That's cool. And like I said, thank you for assisting me on this. That's all. The Bright Desert's always been there for me. But Anna, go ahead. You go next.
Well, Jim, for me, it's an area that has dual interest. First of all, it's a geographical kind of anomaly, and has
point.
and it's in the middle, and it's a geographically interesting area because it sticks out like a sore thumb, more or less sore. And as a cartographer, that is irresistibly interesting. Why is it there? Why is it looking like that? So that was one of the reasons I wanted to have discussion with a lot of informed people, so we can figure out some of the reasons behind it more and stuff. And I've done a little bit of research through the years, and now I started to read Rary the Trader again and stuff. And to be honest, it confuses me more than I make sense of it, so to speak. So it's because
it does.
Yeah.
I think I was pondering that, Anna, and I think I understand why. It's right on the front cover. So when you look at this, first of all, you don't even know who wrote this because it doesn't say it anywhere until you go inside a couple pages. I think it's Anthony Pryor.
Yeah.
Anthony Pryor.
Yeah.
Pryor. Yep.
But my picture's covered. I'm going to have to do this in between.
Wrong spot. I can show it.
There you go. See what it says up there? For all levels of play.
Yeah.
All right. There it says at the very top of this. So this is not a module. This is a campaign setting guide book, like Slavers, with some adventure stuff thrown into it. So I think it's trying to be two things at once, and it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I totally agree.
Okay.
If you compare it to like Ivid the Undying or Eus the Evil or any of those, it's clearly more of, it's like they took, you know how those had a setting book and a module. With Rary the Trader, it's like they tried squishing the two together.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Instead of doing a campaign setting and then instead of doing a campaign setting, then doing some adventures for it. So if you guys someone hops us over, I'll do 2 sets of 2 reprint giveaways tonight. That's my offer to the community. Thanks, Dan Weirdo. There we go. So I'm doing 2 sets of 2 reprint giveaways for everyone tonight instead of 1. It's all in the same giveaway. Please feel free to sign up. Thank you. You guys are awesome. Guys and gals, and the whole community is fantastic. So, yeah. So, but that doesn't mean that there's not great information in this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And let me tell a little story. It's a dumb story, but I like telling dumb stories. So when this came out, when did this come out? This is 2092,
92 or something like that. If I remember correctly.
This is early, 92. This is right after. This is one of the first ones, right after From the Ashes. I think this came out before Eyes of Evil and the Marklands, I think.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
why there's probably that confusion. They didn't know what they were going to do yet.
That's a true point, Les. Like they threw Rary, so if you're not aware, Rary kills in an ambush during the Pact of Greyhawk signing, with Robilar helping him, goes and kills off Adeluk and Tensor permanently. Okay, now if you run Return of the Eight later on, you can get Tensor back, but Adeluk is gone permanently. And then he flees to the Bright Desert. So for those who are kind of new to Greyhawk, here's Greyhawk City. This is the From the Ashes era. And then Rary flees to the Bright Desert to make his own realm, basically, out here. Now, the little side story I'm going to tell is the following. Walt has this high level character, Lena, and she says she asked me as a DM. She's like, "Well, I'm gonna inquire to the circle because now Tenter's back at this point of this discussion, and the Knights of York have made an alliance with Tensor. So she goes to Tensor, says, "All right, Tensor, can you ask the circle? I want to petition to join the circle. What do I need to do?" So they come back at a meeting and they're like, we're really excited about having a second female after Jalarzi in the group, right? Because you know they added a female member. All you need to do is go out in the Bright Desert and kill Rari and bring back proof, and you're in. And that was the end of that. He's like, "Nope, I'm not running that. I'm not doing that.
Bring me the head of Rari the traitor, right?"
Exactly. So we never did it. So Rari's still sitting out there in my campaign as a little, as an enigma out there. So yeah, but that's my little story. But with this, I was like, oh my gosh, look what I found. I didn't even realize I had in this handout.
Mm-hmm.
I have a map.
In there. Yep.
I have a really nice map. I mean, the map below is inside. This one comes with it, and it's a separate map of the entire area of the Bright Desert, the Aberrals, right? Now I know where you got Ghost Tower of Inverness exactly placed. It's on this map.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's Ghost Tower of Inverness. So, and there's, Bright Desert. And so Anna had a nice template for the area of this. So if you find a Rari that I can imagine how much this is going for on eBay. Les, what do you think? 100, 150 with the map in it now?
With the map, yeah,
What?
probably.
Oh yeah, easily.
That expensive for this?
With the map in it, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
with the map, the value of these just skyrockets.
It's ridiculous.
Okay.
It's
Wow.
absolutely crazy. Please, everyone, feel free to sign up. Just exclamation point drawing, and just got to be on at the end for that. So thank you for the great hype train. Really appreciate it as we kick off the first stream of November. And now the goal is 10,000 followers. We only have 881 or something to go. So yeah, we'll get there. All right, let's start with back in the day. Why don't we start there, Les and Anna, at the very beginning? What is going? Thank you for the follow there. We appreciate it.
You mean in historic sense?
Yeah,
with the
let's
Bright
go
Desert?
back to this. Let's go back to the glossography. And what does
Oh,
it
you mean the
say about the
publication.
Bright Desert in this glossography? If I can find it. Because, they have stuff they have certain things in certain orders, right?
Well, it's not a country, so it's wilderness, and wildernesses are in the end.
Right, but big wildernesses are in alphabetical order inside all the mountain ranges and stuff. So it should be.
It's on the wastelands, Bright Desert, page
No.
60.
Okay, yeah, it's actually on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Bright Desert. Yeah. So this is all, and let me go over here and let me open this up. So now this is all it says. Since, here it is, Bright Desert, population unknown, demi-humans doubtful, humanoids doubtful. Okay. Since the beginning of recorded history in the Flannis, the Bright Desert has intrigued and challenged mankind. It supposedly is filled with riches, copper, silver, gold, gem, minerals. The harsh climate, wildly varying temperatures, and hostile inhabitants. And it says soul peoples here. Now, that may be incorrect, and we could discuss that. Who battle any intruder with ferocious determination and bloodlust tend to discourage exploitation. The dervishes, rumored to dwell in the bordering Aberrals hills, likewise turn away any would-be explorers. Though if such dervishes actually exist, they are likely to be of Flan extraction. There you go. And hostile to Sulwe's nomads. One or two organized forces have attempted to penetrate the Bright Desert, but none have ever returned to tell what happened. It starts off as an enigma where it mentions a yes, exactly, Eric Fellas. Here you go. You get one of these one-line blurbs about dervishes here that is nowhere else. You're absolutely correct on that. So what are your thoughts, Anna and Les, on this initial glossography posting? And Darlene's map is it's bright, and it's it's in bright colors. That's what's Bright Desert.
Yeah.
So we are at the beginning, and
I think it's one of these anomalies that someone just wrote in there because they wanted a desert. I think that's why it ended up there. It's like someone,
Okay.
oh, we need a desert adventure, and this is probably pre-Greyhawk. I have to look at the Castle and Crusades map, or Castle and Crusade Society's map. I wouldn't be surprised if it has roots that early, so to speak. it's wouldn't be surprised.
Okay.
I think it was there because someone wanted to run a desert adventure. I don't know this, it's just my hunch, because it doesn't really fit in with the rest of the landscape stories or anything like that. So it just, and then a lot of the other stuff comes later. That's my guess, that from a world building perspective, the desert came first, and then it got filled in with more and more stuff as things published, so to speak. But that's my hunch how it came to be, so to speak.
So your theory, they just wanted a desert, and they didn't want it that far from Greyhawk
Exactly.
City.
It
Okay.
was the rest of the setting might not, it was conveniently close to a lot of other stuff. That's just my hunch. That a lot of stuff came in there, because it's not a huge desert, it's a tiny desert by
Yeah, in comparison to
almost
Sea of Dust,
every
though, yeah.
standard of real deserts or stuff like that. It's tiny. And
Less,
it's not surrounded by any desert-like climate or anything like that. Most of the
Right.
rest of it's kind of temperate, wonderful, normal, whatever kind of, and
that's
all of a sudden
interesting.
there's a desert. So it's an anomaly, which makes it interesting.
Right, because you would think with the flow of airflow out of the Woolly Bay, and that, well, I guess you have west coast of Africa too, but the trade winds go that direction.
Yeah, but also now we have to look into, if we look at it from a climate perspective, deserts have nothing to do with temperature. Deserts have to do with humidity. It's a dry place. It doesn't. Meaning they're cold deserts, as well as hot deserts. Meaning Antarctica has a desert that is the driest place on Earth, and that is actually the coldest place on Earth as well. So there are deserts in anywhere from like Death Valley and parts of Sahara that are the hottest places on Earth are deserts, but also the coldest place like Mongolia, Inner Asia, up in the Himalayan plateau and stuff like that. Those are also deserts that are bitterly cold. And then in Antarctica, you have the coldest desert of them all, so to speak, a coldest place. So in that sense, you can actually have temperate deserts. They are among the rarest in the real world, because in the real world, they normally only occur when you're so far inland, like in Central Asia and like the central part of Antarctica, where you have mountains and stuff around. So they're so isolated, so weather and humidity can't reach it. That's how you get deserts in areas where except for the really dry, hot areas where humidity would evaporate away, so to speak. So and this doesn't, from that geographical perspective, this doesn't fit the bill in any of these senses. So So to me, it sounds like there's something magical, or some or a deity or something like that have caused
or a
the anomaly. Yeah, but it's not terribly out of league, because the rest of the areas are, I would say, Mediterranean and stuff. So we are not too far off. Meaning, think of Italy and southern France, northern Spain. Southern Spain has a desert, but it's not close to the coast. In real life, it would be, if we follow normal Earth culture, climate, it would be in the inland, not by the coast. So we're not too far off, so to speak. So that's why I think it's an anomaly, but not a complete disaster from that standpoint. So I think it's cool, because that means that whoever created it didn't go completely against reality, our real world reality. They just tweaked it a bit, and that what makes it intriguing and cool, in my sense, so to speak, and plausible. So even my kind of hyper realism at times, it suits even that picture. So yeah.
So go ahead, Les, please.
I was going to say too, I'm looking at the Castles and Crusades map, and it's not on there.
Oh, really? The original map?
Yeah, from that was published in the Domesday Book. Yeah, it wasn't in there. Sea of Dust and the Dry Steppes are to the west, and that's about the only desert region I can see. Everything else has forests spotted here and there.
Yeah, deserts are kind of, this is the deserty place in the Flannies. Meaning,
it developed. I'm thinking that it was developed later, and I think one of the reasons why is hinted at in the population description. You notice that it's unlikely and unlikely, basically, in terms of the inhabitants of the area, but it also is rumored to be full of wealth. Translation: it's an extremely dangerous area, but one that is rife for adventuring and looting.
Yeah.
Put those together. Adventuring and
Yeah.
looting. Yeah.
But then we have,
Exactly.
when it comes into population, we have the interesting that I think it comes with Rary the Trader and wasn't before, and that is that this was once the ancient kingdom of Sulm.
Sulm, right? Yes.
Sulm, yeah, the old Flan kingdom. I think it was an old Flan kingdom, and
Yeah,
to me,
and it was one of the old Flan kingdoms there.
Yeah,
It was the Flan Dominions.
And to me, if this was back in old Flan days and you could settle somewhere else, why the heck settled in some of the worst areas? Meaning,
because it wasn't always like that as it develops in Rary the Trader and in the later
stuff.
stuff.
I'm so glad you said that. So yeah. So please continue.
Yes,
I was going to say we'll come to this later, but it has to do with the Sulm's decadence and the Scorpion Crown.
Cool.
So, but at any rate, with this, you notice we're already getting hints of some of the populations that were there. We're getting discussions of dervishes. We're talking about Flan, and we're talking about Sul populations, and that Sul population is going to later become even more pronounced and important in its role, and lead to the introduction of a third population. Actually,
the Scorpion Men.
No. There's according to some of the later stuff, there is actually a Baklunish slave population that was brought there.
Oh, okay.
By the Subul, who they were basically hauled off. It was a small slave population, and eventually that led to the introduction of the worship of the goddess of is her name Geshte?
Geshtai, Geshtai, yeah.
Geshtai, the worship of Geshtai gets introduced into that region, and that results ultimately, by the time you get to 3.5, into the introduction of another race altogether.
Interesting.
So, but yeah, basically, it's like I said, people are taking these little threads and building on them and building on them, building the prehistory backwards.
Yep.
Reverse engineering the history, so to speak.
Which is kind of a cool way of doing it, because then you can get a lot of stuff right, and you can add to it as creativity strikes you over time, so to speak.
And that's a lot of what Gary said about making Greyhawk your own. It's just that they are paying people to do published books. I mean, look at the Great Kingdom. Look at the size of the Ivad the Undying. I mean, that is completely almost empty. That large, before that, there's not, for the size of that kingdom, there was nothing until that really came out and really added a lot of flavor to it, even though it never got officially published. But this Rary the Trader is one of the first ones right after From the Ashes, in that second edition era. And so, in first edition, there's nothing here. And I was thinking, my brain was off, but Moor Castle's up here. So Moor Castle's not, there it is. Moor Castle's the southernmost Cairn Hills right there. So it's not, Moor Castle has nothing to do with it. If you all see,
except for the fact it does give you the idea that there's a Sul population in the general vicinity.
Okay.
Don't say that, because
you think there's a connection, Anna?
That might be because these are old remnants of things that used to be 1,000, 2,000 years ago, and then to me it's connected. If it's connected in time, there could be all sorts of connections, so to speak. So yeah.
Right. Keep on chatting that up. I'm getting one of my more cat here. So I found it. So here's. Remember, Mike gave me a couple of these. There.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there's the Moor Castle dungeon. Right. So.
Matter of fact, if we don't mind skipping ahead,
please.
Time a little bit.
We can bounce around, man. Absolutely, let's do it.
I was going to mention that in terms of the Sul who are there. The idea that's later introduced with them is that there was a group of Sul who were fleeing, who forced a passage through the Albarals, and had heard these Flan legends of a bountiful land. Right?
Is that Rary the Trader?
It's in some of the. I think it's alluded to in Rary the Trader, but it's developed later by Creighton and company. So basically, and it also comes up in a little bit in the David Howery adventure that was in Dungeon Magazine.
Okay.
Ghazal.
Yeah, and I have Ghazal. I have Ghazal to discuss.
The Sul will wind up being the baddies in that.
Yep.
But at any rate, the idea is that they were in search of this fabled land, but they'd wreaked such havoc that the Flan tribes ambushed them and significantly diminished their numbers. they were already kind of like, you know, they're in search of this promised land that Flan legend described. They get through the Aberrals, and then they're ambushed by Flan tribesmen. And basically, these would be the ones they set up. Their Gazal is actually an old Sewell fortress, if memory serves.
And let me put this over here. I'm trying to get them all connected here, so I have them on one here, and that is Dungeon. I got that up. And we just talked about Gazal a couple Gabbins ago. There's Gazal, David Howery, page 22. So let me just prompt this. Yeah, because I ran this one not that long ago. When I'm talking about like 200 adventures ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you get a little bit more on those. They call them Tuaregs, which is remarkably similar to Tuareg.
Yeah.
But of course, these are blonde-haired, blue-eyed ones.
Right.
In there, but they're also you get some development of them also in the Blight on Bright Sands source book.
Yep, I got that right here.
Greyhawk.
Yep. Stephen Randy McFarlane participated in this too. Look, Creighton, Sampo. Oh, Sampo's in this too. There, Anna, Stuart Kerrigan. You know, a lot of people.
Paul Luby.
Yeah, Paul Luby. Greg Marks. Yeah, very nice. Very, very nice. That is cool. So, if you tell me a reference that you want to discuss point wise, and whatever book, I'll jump to it. I got them all prepped. I got Rary, the Blight, and Gazal all up. So, so give us, whichever one of you can, a little history, even if it's thousands of years. What happens in this area, you think, in the Bright Desert to get us to whatever, 576 or 598, you know, where this is here on this map? Is there a kingdom?
Yes, you start first.
Okay.
Yeah.
I go first.
I think you have more good to say than me. Yeah.
Yeah, there was again, I'm beholden to Mr. Broadhurst for this. Over on the WotC site, they published all those great mysterious places pieces, and one of them is Dominions of the Flanay. And that piece begins, of the ancient history of the Bright Desert, much still remains occluded. Of that time before the twin cataclysms and great migrations, even Uhras of Nihili in his Chronicles of Secret Times is silent. Only Rexodus' A Chronicle of the Flan People provides any insight into the time before Shatados' ill-fated decision to don the Scorpion Crown. And then it goes into the different groups that actually had territories, dominions within.
Okay.
The thing. You had the Durha, where they occupied the most unfavorable swath of grassland, according to this. They viewed farming and building as effeminate and unworthy of their warrior heritage, and thus their doom was wrought. They basically wound up being conquered by Sulm. You have Itar, which is the one that has the hero god who is supposed to return, Vathris.
Right. Okay.
At some time. You have Rukha, who are related to the Ronhasses by blood and tradition. They fought a terrible war against their brother tribe, almost to the complete ruination of both. Then you have let me go down.
And these are all Flan tribes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have the Ronhas, who are the brother tribe, and they fought the Rukha almost to extinction. And then you have Sulm, which of course is its own story and wound up being, once this was a land of wildflower, according to the material here and in Rary the Trader and elsewhere. Obviously, this was a land once of wildflowers and fertility, and then it wasn't, largely because of what the doom that the Sulm brought to the place.
There's a place on Earth that this has happened to in the last 100 years. Afghanistan.
And right quick, the Troon as well, by the way.
When you cut all the trees down, there's
it happens to a large part of the Middle East. It used to be cedar forests and stuff before the Roman Empire, and also Northern Africa. Northern Africa was Rome's breadbasket, and that's 2,000 years ago.
Yep.
And today it's dry desert, bone dry desert, so it can go really, really quickly. So
And you also have related to these, you have the Hulanar, who are the they were desert centaurs who originally, at one point, they were mercenaries serving under Sulm, and as Sulm began its cascade into decadence, they basically turned their backs, and they were spared the brunt of the destruction that was rained down on the territory.
So you had a lot of warring between. No, this is pre-Sulwys here.
Yeah,
this
is
pre-migration. and
Pre-migration, you got
Yep.
a lot of warring. So the
Mhm.
Sulm takes over everything. It sounds like, right?
Correct. They
Okay.
wind up pretty much being the ascendant group.
So is that? Are they in power still, and it's still thriving during the migration era? Or we don't know.
Up until about 2,000 years ago is when I believe Sulm
Okay, so this is still pre-Vecna
bottomed
time.
out.
And then this wasn't a desert. It became
Correct.
a desert, I guess,
Right.
in that era when the Sulm kind of screwed things up.
Correct.
We're thinking the buildings and cities, Rex Fellis, were Egyptian style a little bit. Is that correct? Am I wrong on that?
It doesn't really
Doesn't
give
say?
much of a description.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think we shouldn't draw too many
Right.
just because it's
Parallels.
a desert and stuff. So yeah, I think there were Flan and one of the Flan, just like we have many different countries in today's Greyhawk.
The only reason I ask that is a lot of adventures that I see in deserts get placed with that style of architecture.
It's one of these, meaning they're just like, oh, it's cool, Egypt
Right.
is cool, and it's too much of a typecasting.
Right. But if you're putting the Desert of Desolation series in here, then you're going to get that again as well.
I don't know much about that, but I think normal big conventional desert adventure might not really belong here, so to speak. There's huge desert out in the west. Put them out there somewhere.
So Rex Fellis asked a question, Les. Did they control more than just the Bright Desert area? It's a good question.
It appears from what's written that they controlled most of the Bright Desert. Beyond that, it doesn't really say.
Yeah.
We do know that, like, we know something about the gods they worshipped.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The Eric Mona piece, which is posted on Cannon Fire, it was originally on the RPGA site, called Reflections in Silica, Sulm and Itar.
Let me see if I can find that.
Discusses how basically Itar was given to Atara, the Flanne god of ingenuity, who's virtually forgotten. That winds up being, this whole thing kind of winds up being slightly renamed later.
What's the name of it? Reflections in Itar?
Reflections in Silica.
Oh, Reflections in Silica. I'm going to see if I can find it. Reflections in Silica. Silica?
Yes.
Okay, let's see what we got. Let's see. Yeah. There it is. May 3rd, 2002. All right, there we go.
And Sulm, basically, as it mentions, allied itself, on the other hand, with Neural and other malign deities, and the kingdom became a champion of darkness. The kingdoms fought for more than 3 decades. Itar always standing up to Sulm, even when its levies swelled with men from each conquered territory. Then it goes into the case of the last battle between Itar and Sulm.
So Sulm was a Neural follower? It says
Neural and various other dark gods.
Okay. And Itar was, who did Itar revere?
Well, in this case, it's described here as Atara. It's the Flanne god of ingenuity, who it mentions is mostly forgotten nowadays.
Okay. So the war was 30 years. Itar. I mean, we're talking 2,000, 2,500. This is pre-Vecna, so this is really early, right? This is as ancient history as you're going to get in Greyhawk. And I wonder, you know what? I always wondered if Eric has forgotten what he's written. How much?
I think so.
I'm sure. He said so himself when he came on the show, and who hasn't? If you've written 1/3 of he had done over decades, then yeah, of course.
So it says here, Shadowdos pleaded with the Dark Gods for Wei might have eternal dominion over his own subjects. At least one got hurt and presented him with a scorpion crown. All right, so the scorpion crown is in Rary the Traitor. I know that, right? All right, so let's.
And the idea of it being given to him by some sort of evil entity is in there as well. what happens from here on out is it gets kind of retconned, so that the dark god who gifted him with the crown, in a lot of the earlier versions, it's ambiguous, right? It's just a dark god with a malicious sense of humor, as most dark gods have.
There it is.
In this case, it winds up being, as it develops, Therisdun.
Oh, well, that's not
And
good.
so basically, he's reaching out and he's saying, grant me, eternal power, blah blah blah, and dominion over my subjects. And yeah, you get a good dose of entropy. The land withers, and the sorcerer priest and his people are all turned into man scorpions.
Ah, ha
Mhm.
ha ha.
Yep.
So, and the man scorpion's in here. But the crown exists still.
Yes. And the Living Greyhawk arc had to do with pursuing the crown. And I guess this is a spoiler. If you have Paul and Creighton and company on again,
We will.
I'm going to leave a lot of this up to them to discuss, because there are some really neat things, including some time travel, which I normally don't like, but the way they pull it off in some of those Living Greyhawk modules is really cool.
Excellent.
But one of the things that one of the twists to this is that Rary intends to unmake the crown and thus undo the curse on the Bright Desert.
Now that is Living Greyhawk.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
And then of course that draws him, because at first I don't think they realize what his plan is with the crown, and B, they're convinced that he doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, yeah.
But then it gets more complicated. It's a really interesting arc. One of the more I would say
this
just
is a
really
core.
Cool, crazy stuff.
This is a core,
Mhm.
correct?
It was a core adventure, and then there were some side stories involving Hardby and elsewhere that were run for Ernst and Nyrond, I think.
Which means anyone can run core arcs, correct?
I believe so. I wasn't
Okay.
around for Living Greyhawk, so
Okay. Yeah, neither was I. So yeah, and they talk about, let's see, both Core 5-6 Blood on Bright Sands and Core 5-9 Gateway are designed as a starting point to the series.
yep.
If you don't want to start a new character, participate, you might begin with your Core 508 Gateway to the Bright Sands. That's the one you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a whole series of about 11 adventures.
Thank you, Lance. Oh,
in
wow.
the past, so.
Neat. That's a cool.
It's a story arc that ran for several years, and yeah, it had some interesting twists and turns. And Anna will be pleased to know that there was a shadow dragon at one point.
Oh, good,
introduced
good,
into the
good.
narrative.
Good.
So
I will scroll
Improved.
through this a little bit from what I have on this at some point. So, all right.
and
so-
as Asher points out, you could per that little book, you could have Desert Centaur characters.
Oh, okay.
Kind of awesome.
Mhm.
Which is so in 3rd edition, you could play a Desert Centaur, which is cool. So we get to. I think I have this up already, but I'll bring it up a second time. Yeah, I do. Okay, we get to this map here, which is inserted in within.
Which is much better than the original one, I think. In
Yeah,
a lot of sense.
yeah, it's got a lot of, and all this has been translated over into Anna's map for. I
yeah,
believe.
I've gone through. I've gone over a couple of times, so hopefully I got everything. But there's things in the text in Rary that I've found today that are interesting. But we will get there.
Yeah, they're only available by. It's who you know, Rex Fellas. If someone has it and can, because legally they're not really allowed to be distributed. So
now, on the upside of that, if
Mhm.
for some reason you have difficulty locating that, I would recommend a couple of other sources for Living Greyhawk era material pertaining to this. You have In the Bright Desert by Creighton, which was published in Polyhedron, the Living Greyhawk Journal number 21, in Dungeon Magazine number 98.
okay.
It's
in Dungeon 898.
Yeah.
Okay, well we're gonna be going over that Sunday too. That's one of the dungeons we're gonna be going over. Oh, I didn't even know it in the Polyhedron section. Wow.
Correct.
Wow. Okay, thank you for that update. Thanks for that reminder there, Les. That's pretty cool.
Hey, no problem, no problem. And you also have let me see if I can find the other thing right
I gotta
quick.
find my notes for all those shows. You know, I got too much paper out and about. I am a paper monger. I'll remember that.
But yeah, basically you can pull that up, and you can pull up Eric Mona's Reflections in Silica on
Yeah, on Cannon Fire. I mean, I did
Cannon
that.
Fire.
Anyone could go to this
Yeah.
and do this. So,
And there's also another article that they did. Let me see if I can find it, about the inhabitants of the Bright Sand of the Bright Sands thing. Denizens of the Bright Desert, which is in Dungeon Magazine 103.
okay.
It gives you stat blocks for Rary the Traitor, Eleazar Razim Azamut of the Muddled Tongue, Shemaiah, and Kumhayak, and gives you monster stats for the Desert Centaur and the Desert Troll.
So I need to get Dungeon 98 and Dungeon 103. And maybe we'll skip to 103. I know I was going to do at least up to 99 now, but maybe we'll jump to 103 for Rary discussion add-ons for Sunday's Dungeon Magazine adventure ones. That's good. That's great, Les.
And if you have, if you can also, just I was going to throw in, when we're still publishing them separately, Living Greyhawk Journal number 3, the Blood of Heroes article by Sean Reynolds, Fred Weening, and Eric Mona has Vathris in it. Has the write-up on Vathris and Vathris's history.
Are you reading my mind, Les?
No,
Not
that I know of.
Because I want to show you something. Do you know this? A week from Sunday, Sean Reynolds is
back.
Sean's
There you
on.
go.
And I remember we discussed that when we were doing Living Greyhawk journals, and I said they took that right from the movie The Blood of Heroes. I guarantee it, right? From that, yeah. So we will have. We definitely will have Sean on, and we're going to go over a lot of those. I already warned him. We're going to go over Slavers, some of his other stuff, but we're going to dig into the Living Greyhawk journals. He's like, please don't make me reread stuff. I said, don't worry. I'm going to have it up on the screen. You don't have to reread anything. He didn't want to have to do research for it. So thank you. We are trying, man. We are trying. That's what we're trying to do. I really appreciate those kind words, Rick Salas. It's all about this is.
Yep.
This was Anna's idea. You can thank Anna. This was an Anna topic.
We haven't done it in a long time, and
Yeah.
it's one of these kind of, I think, from many perspective, interesting areas, so to speak, to dig into. So yeah.
Absolutely.
If you don't mind me throwing one last thing in, while
No,
we're on
please,
this subject,
go on.
in this
Go
area,
ahead.
since we're talking about Vathris, Vathris comes up in. I think the first time you get a taste of Vathris would be in the Eric Mona piece, although he's named Atara there.
Okay.
Okay, and hang on a second. Can you some background on who this is, so to speak? Or
Yes,
do we know anything?
The rival kingdom of the chief rivals to Sulm was Itar, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
At least
And,
from the Eric
I
Mona
got it up.
article.
I got it up right now. Yes.
Yeah.
And he was a.
This is 10 years after Rary the Traitor is published. This is 2002.
Okay.
10
yeah.
years after 19. Yeah, that's published. Yeah. Go ahead.
He was a. He's now revered by some of the Flan wanderers, the Flan nomads, as the hero deity of lost causes and revenge.
Oh.
So that's almost like Tritherian.
In a way, yeah. Except in this case,
Yeah.
they believe that
Nice.
there's something coming. It's an apocalyptic event called the Day of Vindication, when all the virtuous will be reunited with the righteous. All the virtuous and the righteous tribes will be reunited, and those who have kept the laws of their people will be reunited under the banner of the tribe of Itar or whatever, and Vathis, and the unrighteous and the monstrosities that were unleashed by Sulm will be smited, and Ernst and Rary the Traitor, who have also harassed these Flan nomads, will likewise be made to pay.
Yeah.
So
Before we go too far into later history, do we know anything about that scorpion crown, where that came from, or who made it, or who's behind it, or is that just something that popped in?
It's in Rary the Traitor initially.
Yeah.
So here let
Yeah,
me go
but
to
it's just mentioned. It doesn't seem to have a backstory. We don't know who
Well, let's
created
see.
it, where it come
Let
from.
me see here.
Yeah.
I
I read
think
it today.
It has
and
no real practical uses, instead
Yeah.
bearing a terrible curse.
Yeah. So and also when I read this today, I was kind of dozing off a little bit, nodding off. So I must say that I might be mistaken. But I get the sense that when this was written, the idea that this seems to be written with a precept that the desert was always there, so to speak, and this just happened in the desert. But I much more prefer the fact that the desert crown and stuff created the desert as
Right.
we know it, so to speak. I like that.
See, I'm
much
pretty
better.
sure that even in Rary the Trader, it kind of alludes to the fact that the land was blighted. Like
Okay,
there's some
yeah,
kind of
Yeah.
it's almost like a reverse fertility myth, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. If the
mhm.
Grail is that which
Yeah.
restores the health
Yeah.
of the land or manifests
Mhm.
the, the land and the king are one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
would
that.
be this
Mhm.
would be Shadados wanting absolute power for and dominion for himself.
Yeah.
The Scorpion Crown manifests that as a blight upon the land and curses him and his followers.
well,
Okay, yep,
it doesn't
perfect.
mention which deity gives it to him.
Exactly.
doesn't-
We don't know where it comes from, and that's I was just
Yeah.
gonna see if someone else have dug into it, if we have a backstory
Yeah,
of
we
the
Sounds like
crown.
a bet.
We actually do in
Ooh.
let me dig this up.
See, now we're getting somewhere. This is fun. This is
let
fun.
me
I love
dig this-
Greyhawk archaeology when you
Yes, this
dig
is as
into
deep.
stuff
This
like
is as
this.
deep dive as we get, everyone.
Yep.
This is
mhm.
digging deep, and that's why Les
Yep.
is here. Les is the
Yep,
deep
mhm.
digger here.
Yeah, and someone mentioned Mental 69, the Thuriston, yes, because
Yeah.
this throws around heavy weights like
That's
crazy, which is one of the little bit kind of annoyance almost in this, but we get to that. So
In this I can kind of make sense as in, you can imagine, and this kind of ties into how some of the adventures play out. You can imagine Therisden trapped in his prison with little cracks into the world, right?
Mhm.
And Shadados, having gone through all these powerful evil deities, is looking for something, I want something that will give me absolute power. And this
Mhm.
thing answers him. And of course, all
Oh.
he's thinking about is what the power is. He isn't thinking that it's basically entropy reaching out.
Ah,
it's
so
Thanos-
we
that
have
it's, Therisden, rather.
Thuriston weaving his or something.
Machinations.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
Wow.
Shadados is stupid enough to fall for it.
or rather
because-
trashing things rather than weaving. I guess
Exactly,
Thuriston is
yeah,
the opposite
undoing.
of weaving. He doesn't
He's
put things
undoing,
together.
right.
And I think that's one of the reasons why even referring to destroying the crown is referred to as undoing, because the crown is itself an artifact which undoes.
Yeah.
So there's
so-
that.
Okay.
Well,
Mhm.
yeah, Lanscast says the Scorpion Crown's in Encyclopedia Magica Volume 1, and he's checking
it
right
is.
now to see if there's anything different. Or
But I don't
Oh.
think there's much of an elaboration in there. I think
Okay.
it just basically
it just
gives you.
it just lists it.
I think
Now
so.
we need to. Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm.
So, well, so that's some great back history. So according to this, we're looking at. Okay, well that's cool. Thanks. I wouldn't
there's
even know it was there.
One
Two-
little spot that I wanted to mention to Anna,
Please.
which she'll love. Geshte Spring.
The Oasis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which the reason it's Geshte Spring, of course, is that the
Right there.
when the Baklunish slaves were brought there, the slaves wound up there was fighting between the Sul and the Flan, as I mentioned, when they entered the when they passed the Aberals.
Yeah.
The slaves wound up freeing themselves and beseeched Geshte to aid them. And this is from another one of these mysterious places pieces.
Mm-hmm.
The legends relate that a creature of pure simmering water led the Bakluni to a hidden valley wherein the goddess appeared to them and created the bountiful paradise seen today. The Baklunish settled there but have long since died out. Only the fruits of Geshte's mercy have endured.
Ooh.
And it mentions that the succulent fruits are occasionally harvested by the Brahals, or druids of the Flan nomads. And the Flan nomads consider the place as holy ground.
Okay. Interesting.
Even though they don't worship Geshte,
Yeah.
they still consider it holy ground because of it's the remaining bit of fertility. It's the remaining bit of what the land once was.
Some cool information. So it sounds like that even during the migrations, this was not full desert if they were bringing Bakluni slaves here for a purpose, correct? Or am I wrong on that?
Well, again, they had been told that there was a promised land, right? The Sul had. So they wandered around and they were trying to find this promised land, and then they got jumped by the Flan as soon as they entered this area. So presumably this was at one point a lush place.
But we don't know if it's 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago. We don't know how long it's been a desert, really.
Yeah, we know it's been at least as far as the Flan, we know that that probably took place then before the war between Itar and Sulm, or the fight between Itar and Sulm, which was 2,500 years ago.
Right. Okay.
And the final destruction of Sulm was about 2,000 years ago, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So it would have been long. It would have been before that. It would have been.
So, yeah, 2,000
a
3,000
weird kind of
years
time
ago. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Great information to get us started. So then you have the multiple groups still wandering about in this area all this time, which is pretty amazing. And then, you know, you're right. It gets backfilled. A lot of Greyhawk gets backfilled over additions.
Yep.
Or back-killed. Sorry, Dale.
Yeah, it depends on how you see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For some people, in some instances, it's back killed, and sometimes it's backfilled. So I try to see it from backfilled perspective, but it's hard at times. So yeah.
Rexall says, "Are there Sul and Flan nomads wandering about now, and Bacloony now? It sounds like."
Yeah.
And look, if you take in. When you read the Rary the Trader, they are described as a mishmash of nomads, barbarians, Sul, whatever Flan, and it's a mishmash of labels and weird stuff that, to me, speaks more of game mechanics than history. So it's a lot of nomads here, barbarians there, and they're like, oh, they're fiercely fighting for its homeland, and then 1/3 of them are neutral and don't seem to take any. So to me, it from a gaming mechanics perspective, I guess it kind of fits encounters and stuff. But from a source book of an area, it some of this doesn't make sense one bit. So in my perspective.
And I think you can tweak some of the particulars
of
the tribes.
And also I think that comes to what Jay said in the early on. This is trying to be everything in one go.
Yes,
that's why one of the reasons it's sacrificed. And there's also some language in here that I think should
like
be
the
left
Tuareg
decades ago.
Yeah.
So so some labeling and stuff. But I'm interested in the basic story of the Scorpion Crown and all that.
And there's one other thing there's one other race that actually factors into that, and that would be 3.5's Sandstorm.
Mm-hmm.
The supplement for desert type adventures. Of course, it had a long an introduction discussing magical wastelands. The Bright Desert gets mentioned, but specifically going again to the Blight on Bright Sand source book, they make it so that you can play the Asheratis, right? And what the Asheratis are, they're these folks who basically can literally live under the desert and can pop up in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
They have this orange skin. And what they've done with this, and I really like the way that they
here it is, Asheratis.
Yeah. Yes, and what they did with the Asheratis is in this they are the people in Sulm who weren't unrepentantly evil and cried out to Geshte for mercy.
Mm-hmm.
And presumably then there would be some Bacloonish as well. The Bacloonish would have been some of them would have been transformed as well into these desert-dwelling humanoids.
Wow! It says here if an Asheratis ever turns away from the worship of Geshtai, immediately fall into a pile of sand, effectively destroying the character.
Yep.
Ugh.
Oh.
Yep. The goddess gives, the goddess taketh away.
Mm-hmm.
It does say, as the curse swept across the arid grasslands and sand began to pour forth from the holy places, seas of Sulm, only Geshtai and her mercy heard these soulmates please. All right, there you go. Wow. Interesting.
It's like basically they and the Desert Centaurs, because they were not corrupt, were spared, the blight, so to speak, and the madness that came with the blight.
Rexals, I think you hit the nail on the head on this. This is a Gygaxian devoid area of lore, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. There's no gourd going around here or anything that I'm aware of.
Now that said, I think that you can, when you look through this stuff, you can definitely see pulp forerunners to a lot of it.
Okay.
Without giving too much away, depending on how you play out the Living Greyhawk adventures, it could culminate in something kind of like the restoration of water to Arrakis in Dune.
Oh, okay.
it could also, of course, not do that. It just depends on how you play out those adventures. You also have, I think, strong kind of elements of like these cults. You know how you have in a lot of stuff dating back to the Mummy films from the 30s, all the way through the Brendan Fraser version. You have Bedouins or Tuaregs who are associated with some sort of cult that is protecting something in the desert or guarding some kind of secret. And you have that similar kind of vibe going on with the Bright Lands and the Bright Desert. You have these different groups, some of whom know more than they let on, who are trying to protect certain secrets from Rary, among other people. So yeah, I mean, there's a kind of, and there's pulp, there are pulp traditions of lost desert cities going even further back than this. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of this stuff where I think they took a blank slate and it slowly accrued levels of lore. And then finally, I think that Creighton and company did a nice job, and Paul Luby and everybody did a great job of kind of tying things together and tidying some of the stuff up. And Eric Mona, of course, deserves a lot of credit for that Silica
Yep.
article.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to put all these disparate elements together and have them make sense.
Is it just me, or does Rary just feel out of place here? Throwing Rary in there, or
Yes and no. It kind of it seems out of place until you piece together the fact that he's supposed to have gone evil, right?
right?
And that he has an interest in that crown. And then the question is, what is his interest in the crown? Given the crown's origin, you see what I mean? Is he
Right. He
gonna-
wants,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, and I
okay.
also think that there's another reason too. It's a wilderness area that
exactly
are still close to power, so it can strike from it. He doesn't want to go to the end of the world. He just wants to go
Yeah.
far away enough that he can be kind of working undisturbed for a bit, so to speak.
Well, I think
Go
I
on.
was going to say that's exactly why. If you read the Hardby City of the Scorned article, of course he comes up in there, because he's manipulating things. He's trying to make sure that the faction he wants to win in Hardby wins,
Mhm.
because this will make everything considerably easier for him. And also you have some of those adventures, like I said, that took place in and around Hardby in Living Greyhawk also kind of touch on that. The idea that while this may not be relevant to Tensor's struggle with Rary about the crown, there's still going to be that thing where he's moving a piece in Hardby, and it could affect this other the quest for the crown. Therefore, the player characters have to try and block Rary's plans in Hardby or in the vicinity of Hardby, because he's playing a multi-level kind of chess game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they talk. The reference book, goes over everything that's here. All the different races and all the different factions that are here, and I guess it's as good as a starting point as any, right? So
Yeah.
I did an adventure here at Tarth Morta that ran out of Southern Ernst not that recently, from a Hardby group that came into Karastein's Castle. So that's published, and I forget the name of it. But this whole area, this Knife Edge Pass, and it was Marstafel. My bad, it was Marstafel. I forget the name of the adventure, but it exists. Lord Ellis is also named in an adventure in Dungeon as well, and you guys can't see it because I don't have that screen up. So with the barbarians of the area. So this is like barbarian lands. So they're now what are barbarians, right? You got the Karastein's Keep way up in the mountains, and you have the Griffin's Nest. These are all discussed in published work. I know Dungeon Magazine has one of them. I can't remember the name of it. My brain. Sorry about that. But it talks about the barbarians here. Duragar. Right, and I think this is talking about the Albarels area, not within. I guess they consider the Southern Albarels part of the Bright Desert area. And you got your desert centaurs here. So, and it says there are highly civilized descendants of a race of centaurs that once served the kingdom of Sulm.
Yeah, as mercenaries. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you can actually PC them. That's pretty interesting. Mines of the Eye. Okay.
Yeah, Brother Eye.
Yeah. Is that Durgar?
They're Duragar miners there. Yes, Brother
Yeah.
Eye is the name kind of gives away what he is.
Oh yeah, Beholder. Whether Father Eye and his Durgar will ever become
Father
part of
Eye, I
Rari's
mean.
empire is not certain, but yeah, there it goes. Should the barbarians take concerted action against the Durgar?
And
All
there's
right.
actually an adventure. One of the adventures for Living Greyhawk involved. They find out that Karstein finds out that there's some kind of tie between Father Eye and Rary. They've come to an agreement that Father Eye and the Duragar are going to be mining for something, and the players have to find out what it is, and B, put a stop to that.
Okay.
So they tie that in as well, and of course that ties in one of your favorite characters, Karstein and her paladin.
And then they slaughter her, don't they?
If they do, she's back by the end of the adventure
Really?
path. So,
Okay. Oh, well.
matter of fact,
Yeah.
Stuart, who has been posting on Cannon Fire lately, and Paul Luby actually have a Mysterious Places about Castle Karstein.
Nice.
So,
I'll have to check. We got a lot. We got to get them back on, and we got to have another nice discussion. Much later. Last year of the campaign. Well, thank you, Lance, for that. That's good to know. It's really in 2008 then, the very last year of the campaign, that kind of stuff happens when it's free for all at the end, right? I know a lot of the places said we're not following the rule set, anymore. We're doing this, doing that, having dragons or whatever. So, and other races, trolls, hill giants, ogres habit the Aberrals. So there you go. And look, we do have some random encounter tables in here. So, and you got your man scorpions, you got Rari's patrols. Use standard. So, points. What would be some Anna noting in your map? An area or two from this map that, like, when you were looking, like, wow, that stuck out, and you said, this is really cool.
Well, first of all, we have a couple of places that I'm not sure are on this map, but I think are of interest well, yeah, we have the ruins of Utah. We have the old Flan ruins that were part of old Flandom. Yeah, we have the ruins of Utah. We have a Senray down in southeast by the coast.
Right,
and
right.
Then,
that's
then we have
too.
and then we have Zarak up in that is north of the Bright Desert, that is closer to Hardby and that area. But there are, to me, some of these are interesting, and we have the necropolis of Unag.
Right.
And so some of these are interesting because they are kind of historical places that can be full of all sorts of cool stuff, and they tie back into. I think so. I think Asher the Bear, that is that it was that it is the old capital of So they are.
Yes.
There are these kind of old ruins that are really old and were full of symbolism and really stood out, so to speak, and are part of history. So yeah.
The pits of Zazak Zil. That's right in the book. All right, that's north of that, though, right? That's not in the Bright Desert. I'm surprised it's in.
Yeah, it's in the area, but it's the pits of Azakzil are northeast of Zarak. And I remember I had to kind of move things around a little bit because there were conflicting things over time, so to speak.
Ruins of Zarak. I don't see the Cenarak in here. Did I miss it? The actual
there's some things, exactly. There are some things that are not described here. They are added later, or
that must be added during the Eric
yeah, exactly. There are a lot of things that are weaved into the story as we go, so to speak. So yeah. But that's classic Greyhawk. So we just have to live with it. And for the most part, I like it. But there are some things I don't like, and you get kind of difficult conflicts and stuff. But on the whole, I much rather have it than would be without it, so to speak.
There's also, I was going to mention, because I like this as an environmental hazard. The piece that Mr. Broadhurst did for into the Bright Desert that I mentioned to you that was in
Mhm.
in Polyhedron, actually has a little sidebar on what's called bright blindness,
Oh, okay.
where basically anyone traveling the White Sands without protection must make a Constitution check every 4 hours of travel.
It's like
DC
snow blindness.
exactly,
Yeah.
except it can get so bad here um, that you can go permanently blind
Oh,
from
Yeah.
the sand. So yeah, it's much like snow blindness.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very so you have to be kind of careful about, among other things, your eyesight while you're crossing.
yeah. That sounds kind of nasty.
And I was going to throw out to you as well.
Hmm.
Living Greyhawk Journal 4 reintroduces. You may remember the Dune Stalkers back from, I believe,
Yes, I
King
love
Folio.
Dune Stalkers.
Then you'll love this. Sean Reynolds in the Enchiridion of the Fiend Sage article there
Yeah.
brings back the Dune Stalkers for 3.5 and specifically locates them in the Bright Desert.
So there is an article, and I believe it's Dungeon Dragon Magazine less, where someone makes all the elemental stalkers, Dune, air, water, and I have them in my elementalists that they can
Yeah.
summon each of them, which is really cool. So, but I'm gonna trust me. This is great. We're going to go over all this with Sean in less than 2 weeks, which is going to be fantastic. So it's like interlinking discussions today,
Mm-hmm.
Sunday, and next Sunday, which is really cool. So which is neat to have. All right. So as far as points of interest that we'll start just um, in the Rary the Trader. There's Geshtai Spring you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these are just whatever's on the map. That whatever's on this map is noted in here, right? Even if it's not in the Bright Desert. So, like Ghost Tower of Inverness is noted in here, and there's a lot of all the areas up here
Mm-hmm.
are noted, but they're not even on the map. So,
Yeah, and we
but
have geographical stuff that are, well, that kind of we don't really know where they come from, but some of them might be constructed. We have Dagger Rock and Gaihur that are kind of a big pillar sticking
Yeah.
up. I think it's the Gaihur that is a big pillar, or maybe it was Dagger Rock. I forgot which
they're
one.
both of them.
Okay, both of them. Okay, yeah. So they can also have interesting stories, and
Yeah.
and that
Well, they may
they're
have.
just
Let me see. Let me see what.
yeah,
they
they're
say.
mysteriously described
is.
without too much detail. So
Yeah.
yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Well, there's a DM's note here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so Dagger Rock, unknown to most. Dagger Rock also harbors one of the most powerful individuals in the Bright Desert, Volte, a 1,000-year-old blue dragon worm.
Yep. That is cool.
He slumbered there.
Yep.
Oh. So it says, let's see. It was the terror of Geoff and Sturridge until he was driven out by a band of powerful wizards and paladins. Aided by the Greyhawk dragon Shemley. That's a first. I've never heard of Shemley before. Has anyone heard? That's a first
Nope,
for
that
me.
was the first
That's
I
a
heard.
Greyhawk
Yep.
dragon. That's another. So that adds like 5 or 6 now. Anyone else? Does anyone out there know anything about Shemley?
I think this might be one of the only references.
Yep, that's the only thing I know about Shemley. So let's see if I get any other hits when I search here.
So, Patrick, Gazal, which I went over in the Dragon Dungeon Magazine Adventures for Greyhawk, we're going to talk about that real quick. Gazal, Gahazal, is posted here, and that's from Dungeon 30. Yes. Tumahars, no, Tumahars is not here. Tumahars is in the Vast Swamp. Yeah. Yep. All right, so there you go. Earth Journal 1? Has Shemley? Interesting. That's the first all right, cool. Oh, how does he have the Equalizer Grand March? See, that's funny because what's his name has it in Expedition to the Ruins of Greyhawk.
Yeah, Earth Journal 1 is mentioned in Best of Greyhawk 4.
There's a conflict.
There's a whole bunch of stuff here. So yeah.
So
nice.
Yes, that's a weird so if you come way down here, Mike, Vast Swamp, there it is. That's Gitano's neck of the woods.
Yeah, and he's a Greyhawk dragon from the Crystal Mist Mountains.
Okay.
Yep, that's from
Whoops!
Rary.
How the heck did I do that? Oh, I need to reopen it. I closed it by accident. I've never heard of Shemley till tonight. So there you go. A new name
Yep.
for me.
Hmm.
We have.
But Volti is kind
What's
of
that,
cool.
Les?
Oh, I was going to say also, when you get to places of interest, don't forget Griffin's Nest.
Yes,
Yeah.
we'll definitely get to that in a second. I just want to get the Greyhawk map up here in case we need to reference it. I accidentally closed it. You can hit me with the wrong button on that, everyone. Oh, there we go. Okay. There we go. All right, cool. Okay, we're back up and running here. So, all right. You said
Griffin's Nest.
Yeah. There's Ghost Tower. So this is in a gorge near Knife's Edge. Now, yeah, this is the one it's up here. It's actually in Ernst on this map.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's also in an adventure. It's in an adventure that has like a volcano up here somewhere. And Lord Ellis, I know I just ran it, and I can't. One of two. I ran in this area. What's that?
I was gonna say, is it in Treasures?
No, I don't believe so.
I think there's.
Maybe it is Treasures, but I know there's an adventure that has to. And if we need an art specialist on, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. I think it's in a dungeon magazine. So, all right, but so there's Griffin's Nest, and let's see about that here. The Bandit King of the Aberrals, Hugo the Axe. I love it.
Yeah, Hugo is one of these.
Yes.
One of these tons and tons of various critters and stuff that are placed here.
Those who dwell in Hugo's fortress are all villainous criminals, or even, although they owe Hugo little loyalty, they will fight for him in the fortress of their refuge is threatened. That's cool. So.
And much despised by the local nomads.
Yeah. I'm wondering, fortresses apparently have dwarven make. I'm wondering if you may want to move this a little south.
Move what?
Well, in your map, it's in Ernst.
Okay, and it's not supposed to be in Ernst?
I don't think it is.
Then we have to discuss, should we move that or should we move the border? That's
yeah. That's a good question there.
Yeah, I put it.
You swapped the locations of Tarth Morta and Griffin's Nest, Langscanth. Oh, there you go. Interesting.
Oh, okay. Then
we may want to do that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
That's a good idea there. All right. So DM's notes: the dwarves who once occupied this fortress tunneled very deeply. Of course they did. Wow! And they encountered a group of illithids who reacted in typical fashion, wiping them out. So they're still down there, causing trouble.
While I'm throwing out obscurities, by the way, I should mention.
Hugo.
Although this is strictly more of an Aberrals thing, the TSR Jam 1999.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if they've taken it off. They did have the TSR Jam available on print on demand on DM's Guild. I'm not sure if they've removed it or not, but that does have an adventure set in the Aberrals. So
cool. So speaking of dwarves digging too deep, just wait till my adventure Saturday morning. The name of the adventure is Reckless. That's funny. Okay. So that's an interesting one there. Knife's Edge Pass, and that is the only continuous path through the Aberrals. Okay, and that's where that is. Let me find the other one. Is the other one on here? I don't. Tulwar Races. I guess it's not. Maybe they should. Yeah, they should be swapped. No magazine specifics for what there. Patrick. So if you want magazine specifics here, Gazelle, cut the slaver's lash or fall beneath it. Okay. Dungeon 30. We discussed this one just recently, but we can look at this right now here. This is the one with the crazy fortress, and here's the map for it. In here, as you can see, Hardby is probably misplaced in this map, but you have Gazelle right
Well,
here.
they wanted to show it was in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in the bright desert, and then you have this view of Gazelle. Remember the I said this was difficult for me to do on my table, but I figured it out. Yeah. So you place. So Ananson says he placed Griffin's Nest right on the edge of the desert. So I think we need to
I
finagle
need
that
to
one.
look into that.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very cool. No, reckless with an R there. So I just made it like this. Not reckless indifference, but I made it like that. Reckless. No, that's just what I called it. So everyone's like, what does that mean? So this adventure, yeah, this is Sewell, isn't it? Les, and this one, the Tarig.
Yeah, they're the Sewell Raiders.
Yeah.
The Sewell nomad types who are kidnapping. They kidnap someone from Hardby, and the players are recruited to rescue.
One second, I'm answering a question here in chat. Free City Girl box set if you want intrigue. Lots of intrigue there, possibilities. That's where I would go. And we did a lot. We did a lot of Thieves Guild fighting. A lot of things there. So, yep. This was a good adventure, and I think I ran this within 200 adventures ago, so it was not that long ago. So you have to go in and you have to free the prisoners. And this was a siege type adventure. Why are they called a Tarig again? Do we remember? It's like the Tuareg. It's like Tuareg.
Tuareg, yeah, it's very much like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so, but it was
incidentally, one thing I was going to mention, Anna, the one thing we do know about Sulm and its architecture that I can find specifically would be in yet another one of those Living Greyhawk Mysterious Places pieces. There's an entry for Under the Brightlands that Stewart, Paul, and Creighton did, called for the Palace of Shatados, the last Sorcerer King of Sulm, where it discusses once clad in pure white marble chosen for its reflective properties, time and the relentless action of the sand have taken their toll. At the zenith of its glory, the palace was famed for its ostentatious ornamentation, tributes offered by Sulm's vanquished foes. Walls were inlaid with gold, silver, and even platinum, and adorned with extensive and intricate bas-relief carvings depicting dead rulers and glorious episodes from the nation's history. On the orders of the Sorcerer King, special chambers within the palace were set aside for unknown rites. The walls, floors, and ceilings of the chambers were clad in vividly colored semi-precious stones quarried from mines long since lost. The significance of the colors is now unknown, however, is a matter of considerable conjecture among the few learned scribes aware of their existence. The surviving upper level is a broad processional arcade with many vaulted chambers. Below ground, there are storage chambers, passages, cells, and cisterns forming a bewildering sunless labyrinth said to connect with the under Oath itself. So that's what we have for the...
Yeah.
And it mentions...
where's that?
That would be on one of the Brightlands, one of the Mysterious Places pieces that was done. And it mentions that several have sought it out, and with the recent rise of the trader, access to the site has been all but severed. The paladin Andorin Parquan, devotee of Pelor, who of course we know from Greyhawk, led a band of powerful individuals here in 573 to cleanse the evil rumored to lurk. Of his company, only he survived, his mind shattered by what he saw. Before he died, his ravings were recorded by the nomads who found him wandering in a delirium. He spoke of a giant scorpion possessing human intelligence and bearing a fearsome mane, a great scorpion-shaped crown wrought from a single piece of black iron, an altar on which his screaming comrades were sacrificed, an evil so pervasive it seemed to emanate from the stones themselves.
Oh dear.
What was his name?
Name was Andorin Parquan.
All right, because we have this Lord Phelan wandering around here too. Lord Fail, but that's a spirit, was a noble paladin in service to the Emperor Sulm. He fought against evil, which eventually
Yep.
destroyed his kingdom. And for his trouble, was assassinated by a decadent young prince.
Yep.
So he just piteously moans and wanders. Well, that's an
Yep.
awful existence. So, what's up, Valmoko? Good to see you.
Hello.
Yeah, so we're bouncing around here with a lot of points of
Yep.
interest now at this point in there's a lot of oases. Is that oases?
Oases.
Oasis, yeah.
All right, I want to know what's up with this Tower of Sleep. That looks pretty cool. Let me find it on the map here.
Oh yeah.
I don't see it. Bananas. Let me check the other map. Oh. Where is it? Is it like hidden? I don't see it on either of these maps.
No, Tower of Sleep. I don't think I have that.
Yeah,
Nope.
I don't see it on either map. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
So that's why I did.
That's
Okay,
why.
I'm going to put it into.
That's the one that comes and goes. Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like
Yep.
it's the one that comes and goes, kind of like Ghost Tower.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So it says the Tower of Sleep is the refuge of the last surviving human citizens of Sulm. The wizard of Shemaya, when Shadowdust's curse began to
Yep.
take hold, she was able to transport herself and her tower into a bubble of magical energy, shielding it from the curse's effects. Time slowed to a crawl, so it's almost like Beyond the Crystal Cave, but that was I guess that was in reverse. So anyone less protection from magic, anyone approaching within 100 yards of the tower must successfully save her spells or fall into deep sleep. It says
Shemaya, by the way, is in Dungeon 103.
oh, she's in Dungeon 103 as well. Okay.
Let me get to it. Yep.
Yeah. That's awesome. So but it doesn't say where it is because it's on the astral plane. Tower itself is it's a single blue-roofed white spire surrounded by a flickering silvery glow. The interior seems far larger. Okay, so she's been. It doesn't say what the time difference is for her. Is it a year? Is it 10 years? Whatever, and it's 1,000 or 2,000. But she's high level, so I'm assuming she's meters from. You would think she'd have time stop if that happened in level 9, but.
Well, let me look right quick.
On occasion, an individual has managed to reach the tower only to be ejected by its guardians. She has not had a living visitor in many years. She gave me a mine of information about the Bright Desert and its vanished kingdom. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons she's written up in that article as an NPC.
Paladins could paladins are undead in 1E2E, absolutely. Yeah. I don't think they can harm themselves. Spirit harm. Well, all right. So that's interesting. So I mean I love a lot of the data in here. How about this Kendira of the North? She is born to the snow barbarians of Soul, Soull. Dissatisfied with a simple northern life, she left with a merchant caravan, finally arriving in the city of Greyhawk. After making a name for herself, she was contacted by Mordenkainen and recruited as a special agent. There you go. So he's up to his scheming. After serving Mordenkainen well, Kendira was eventually allowed to visit Obsidian Citadel, the wizard's secret fortress of Raries, right? When Rari founded his new kingdom in the Bright Lands, Mordenkainen immediately dispatched Kendira to the region. How does she hide herself from him? I mean, as far as alignment and stuff like that. That's interesting. So far, she has won the friendship of the tribe of Desert Centaurs, while some of Rari's more fanatical dervish enemies. All right.
Yep.
Neat. That's a cool one too. Let's see. Tolan Kai. He had a tribe. Now he's a wanderer. All right, Les, Anna, points of interest you want to discuss here, and then we'll go into the Living Greyhawk publication. You got any points?
Let's go into the Living Greyhawk, and then we come into.
Okay.
We will find out more stuff as we go here. So yeah.
Okay. So this is the Blight on Bright Sands source book. I've been going back and forth to it, but it's got a quote from Eretai Khan Ipperzel, the St. Cuthbert High Priest in Greyhawk, which is in from the Greyhawk box set. I just dropped my pencil. So
Open it here. Yeah.
this adventure makes extensive use of rules appearing in the recent releases Sandstorm, Mastering the Perils of Fire and
Yep.
Sandstorm. I don't even know what that is.
That is a 3.5 book that kind of like they did Frostburn and
green cover, like or different. All right, so
yeah,
I imagine that thing is over $100 for an original now. Oh my gosh!
but it's it's the one that has the Astere and it has a bunch of other cool creatures and goodies.
I'm gonna have to look for it. Okay. Hardcover, yeah, that's what I figure.
Yep.
Orchid. All right, I'm just gonna put this out here. Orchid Twilight. I'm really starting to like the early editions better than 5e in many ways. We appreciate that, and hopefully, but there's nothing wrong with any editions you play. But a lot of I love 1e 2e. I love it. I love what what you can do with it and how you can mold it and just keep on adding on to it. It's like a building block. All right, so the document is new rules. All right, required sources. All right, so here's the timeline and the dates when this goes. This core says, well, with premiere at Gen Con Southern California 2005.
Yep.
Oh. Here's your character creation guidelines. So here's your races. New character. We did that Desert Centaur. D&D rewards member, though. So it's a Polyhedron exclusive. Thanks, Wandering. So Sandstorm is on DM's Guild. Lando, that's cool. Thank you. But you know me, I always like the hardback, but I may get it there too. I may have it and I just don't even realize it. Stormwrath and Frostburn. That's it. Okay. Sure, those three.
Yep.
Badland Dwarf, Scabland Half Orc. Nice. Like it. Several alternate versions of existing classes. Remember, this is all 3rd edition chat here. So, and there's Sandstorm versions of these, so we'd have to check that out. Oh, there's new cleric spells, new druid spells, some new mage spells. Here are the deities, I guess, that are able to be worshipped. Prestige classes that are in the Sandstorm: Lord of the Tide, Scorpion, Heritor. Neat. I wonder how many core groups we're venturing out here. Does anyone have an idea? Dale, do you know? Did anyone do this? I'm just curious. Did anyone play like a Centaur or an Asteratus or that we know? Tons? Okay. All right.
That's a good answer.
That's a good answer. More than
It's
one.
a great one. Yeah.
All right. Nice skills and feats. So there's a lot of let's see, chooses from any feats from the player's handbook. But new Brightlands characters choose the following feats from Sandstorm. So look at these. There's a ton of new Sandstorm. I got to get this book just to check it out. See if I can back convert anything to use for me. These are Brightlands regional feats. Equipment starting. If Casey's here, you need your chickens and you need your door hinges. But just kidding. Deities of the Brightlands. So we have Biori, Gishtai, Lurg. I guess they're the barbarians, right? Obadiah, Pelor,
Yep.
Phaeton, Scarret, Vathras. Wait a minute, they're all new. There's no evil deities here. Does that make sense?
Well, we have Rary.
Right, but there's no
deities. No, that's true.
no evil
But, well,
deities.
I guess they wanted to threaten everybody with Thuriston or Near Rule or something from Rary stories or something. So yeah.
Well, I think also the idea is that if you're looking at the humans, I mean, most of the truly evil humans were transformed into
scorpions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man scorpions.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, but I can see evil. I guess I don't. I wouldn't matter. Evil characters allying with Rary
It's not
or
cults,
something.
and in some ways, it's kind of interesting that it's not regular cults thereafter. So it's kind of good that there's something else than the typical evil deity cults.
This is just we're building a character. This discussion. Dale says you're not allowed to play evil in Living Greyhawk, so there you go. Even
By
though
the way,
it's
there's something else I wanted to throw out there that I thought was kind of
please
nifty.
throw away.
Yep.
Since we talked about this before when I was on discussing the Flan, the whole thing about oh, my mind went blank for a moment. Sleep deprivation. The whole thing about Vathris and the idea of this hero deity who will return to rectify things and
Right.
whatnot. Now, in terms of that being a Flan hero deity, doesn't this remind us? Does this remind us of anything else in the world of Greyhawk? Because this
Well,
ties into a lot to how I view the Flan culture.
so a hero deity?
Yeah,
Well,
or anything like that.
Yeah.
well,
Crovis.
I mean, it sounds like the chaotic good version. Well, Lost Cause and Revenge it sounds like Tritherian to me.
I was thinking that for
Yeah.
the Flan, the idea of a hero, I discussed this when we were discussing the Flan. I mentioned how you have this idea of the hero who dies or slumbers but will return in the hour of need
Crovis,
to strike down. Exactly. Crovis would be the example that I was thinking of.
Landscat, look at that, man. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And the idea would be then that you have that in the Pomarge, you
Right.
have that up here in the Brightlands. So in my take on Greyhawk, that's a recurring motif in Flan tradition, that you have a great warrior chieftain who,
Oh, that's good.
or whatnot, who basically has inspired a cult, and there's a belief that Arthur or Christ or any of those type of figures, they'll return in an hour of need and judgment. So
Yeah, Troy, the pinnacles of Azaralk are close, right? But they're a little north, correct?
well, I don't think that was intentional, but I think it was kind of neat that it coincides nicely with Joseph Block doing
yeah.
Provis, and then this.
So sometimes you get lucky with things like that, and it fits perfectly. There's Azek Zeal. That's the pits of Azek Zeal. Where are the pinnacles again? Did I just go by them? Same motif, yeah. So let me finish this up here on this 3rd edition book, because this just shows the classes and stuff. This is a generation guide, so there's no there's some brief history in here. There's nothing like there's no adventures in this or anything like that. So okay, I don't know what I'm thinking. Put to as all right. So it also talks about, since the Brightlands is not a standard region, there are some special considerations. Brightlands character continues to have access to special rules. All right, so yeah.
The other thing I'd recommend, if viewers or listeners are interested in digging a little deeper, that whole idea of the dead, the dying and resurrecting king, or hero deity, you could do worse than look at something like Excalibur, and look at something like particularly the Grail part of Excalibur, or look at some of the literature that was written. There was a particular period in anthropological and literary studies, like Gene Weston's From Ritual to Romance, and R. Loomis, some of R. Loomis's books on the Grail, where it was viewing the Grail myth as part of a fertility cycle, and part of this whole death, rebirth, the wasteland being renewed kind of thing. And I think you can get some of that with the Scorpion Crown idea. Like I said, when I was comparing it to almost like an inverse Grail kind of image, something that blights the land rather than heals it, and its unmaking would heal the land. I think that might be something that readers might be interested, or potential DMs might find.
Yeah, that's right up the King Arthur realm too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's right up there. You're absolutely right. I love how they mentioned Ghazal in here. They actually have that in here from. So talking about the environs nearby, I don't see the ghost. The ghost I remember in this is more of a Woolly Bay thing, but I guess it's close. You got the Harby, and they say specifically City of the Scorned, because of the reference from Creighton and Paul, Karstein's Castle. So they're noting all the locations that are most of them are in the Rari book as well. And then they talk about the peoples of the region here. They call them hill folk, not barbarians. Barbarian folk of Harby, Flan nomads. So Rex Fellis asked a question: Aaron, how do you interpret the Flan culture? Pseudo Celts, pseudo Native Americans, a bit of both. I don't even know if you want to go there with a
I
reference to us.
yeah, but the way I see it, I see it as my inspiration, and I take inspiration from the real world, but I go back to far back in European history to the first, not the Neanderthals, but the first Homo sapiens that came to Europe, so to speak. I when I read the descriptions and stuff, I'm thinking before the historic people we know, but the ones that might have led up to Celts and others later on, so to speak. I see them as the some of the first Homo sapiens that came to Europe. They were kind of curly haired and dark skinned, but blue eyed, a lot of them. So some a type of person we rarely see today in the world, so to speak. Some part of humanity, and then being mixed up with others. That's my main inspiration, but not so much cultural and stuff. So I want to. I'm looking into an inspiration. I see them as an offshoot, meaning we have almonds and flan and tuov down in the south. I see them as coming from there, so to speak, and immigrated into the flan. But that meaning now we talk many thousands of years back, and then they got influenced by Sul and flan and Ridian and others who came later, so to speak. But that's my influence in it. But I try to stay away too much from real world, saying that, oh, they look like people from the Balkans or people from Scandinavia or people from somewhere. I try to stay away from that. I want to kind of go further back in history and for kind of to at least go away from our normal stereotypes, so to speak, in order to try and build something that feels a little bit unique, so to speak.
Well, it's like, I think too that you can. There are the physical descriptions in the old glossography and whatnot, but I think as important is the culture and the mindset.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Which to me is always going to be. I mean, it seems if you look at the Flan pantheon and you look at this motif of the dying or sleeping hero who will return, that the Flan have a more cyclic view of time,
Mm-hmm.
And a sense of death and rebirth
Yep.
and such.
Yep.
So that's where I tend to place the emphasis on
Mhm.
these
Yeah.
cycles, and the idea that trying to break that, as the Earthland did, or as some of the more transgressive Flan in my campaign's
Yeah.
backstory did, is a bad thing,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah,
stealing
and
from the tribe is the same thing. As if you steal or violate someone or something pertaining to a tribe, you're breaking its cycle, you're breaking its rhythm.
Mhm.
So you're not only transgressing against an individual or a people, but you're transgressing against nature itself.
Yeah, and I also see that they have also gone in my take on the Flan. They've also gone through a lot of changes, meaning go back
Yes.
3, 4, 5,000 years ago when they kind of started to get established and started to be some sort of civilization. Then first I felt that they were basically alone. They had the Flannies basically to themselves. There were probably elves and others there, but at least they had enough room to roam and to thrive without competition much, so to speak. So I get the sense that they have been through a lot of changes and differences. So you have the kind of early exploring, kind of going out, spreading out, and starting to get some variation and stuff. And then I get the sense that you had like an era of experimentation. They found undeath and they started to cult. That's the era of the Urflan cultists, so to speak. They started to realize that, oh, we can get power. We can invent religion. And cults and stuff. And that's where you have the first undead witch kings and other stuff like the first liches and a whole bunch of stuff. Now we're talking 3,000-4,000 years ago, maybe something like that. The age of a Serarak and then Vecna leading into it and stuff. So you had, and that was probably from a Flan perspective, that was literally a struggle between good and evil. You had these kind of evil over witch kings, lich kings, whatever you call them, or whatever how you stat them out, so to speak. But they, just like the Sul, probably meaning I have it that was something that you could do. It was like a sort of science that once you discovered it, you can kind of, there's always someone who's going to abuse it. So you had like a lot of that culminated. And I also see that the old faith, that meaning it's old from an Iridian or modern Flannery's perspective, but that's where I see the modern old faith coming, so to speak, as a sort of almost like a reaction to it. You had all these kind of cults going completely haywire, and then someone wants to say, okay, now we need to go back to our roots again and worship the sun, and the seasons and stuff like that. That's when Beeri, Nerul, and Obadhai and all that started to come, the old faith that we see, so to speak, and as a parallel, so to speak. And then you have the migrations coming in, and then it was labeled the old faith, but it was, in my sense, more like a new or renewal of Flan faith, so to speak. But sorry, go on.
I was going to say that the one hesitation I have with that would be when we get to what's the northern city with the ziggurats?
Yeah.
Thessalonica? That was originally
Tostica, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The ziggurats, we're told, were originally built for the worship of, I believe, Pelor.
Okay.
But then they were co-opted by a Sararak, I believe, and turned to the worship of him and his infernal masters. So I get the idea that you have the Flan, you have their idea of nature, and then you have the Earthland desire, which I don't even think you have to view it in terms of evil. You can view it as breaking those cycles that the Flan held dear.
Yeah.
Okay.
If that makes sense. If you have life and death and life out of death and the cycles of death and rebirth, the liches, when you aspire to lichdom or eternal power or stuff like that, you're stepping outside of the cycle of life.
Mm-hmm.
You're breaking that. If you don't, undeath is a way of trying to avoid death in this case, and so it becomes a kind of existential struggle between those kinds of viewpoints. And later, with the coming of the Iridians and the Sul, you wind up with these kind of hybridizations of cultures, these cultures where we get say, you might wind up with an Iridian overlay. Everyone mostly worships Iridian gods, but they've incorporated some of the Flan folkways into their traditions of worship.
Yeah. But then you can also have, but I also want to emphasize, when the migration started, that was almost like an existential crisis for the Flan. For the first time, they got overwhelmed, and there were other competitors who were maybe more eager. They have more advanced and had better magic, maybe, and stuff like that. So there must have been an existential.
Oh, absolutely. And I would say that there was probably encouraged some people to turn to some of the darker cults, as a kind of defensive measure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you already had a tendency to do so with the Earthland and with obviously Sulm.
So Rex Fellis, we would need to get David Leonard on, because I have no idea what the Sul year 1 is all about. Does anyone? It's 6091 the Sul calendar.
Oh yeah, that's the Sul calendar stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking common year. My brain was shut off. So, but yeah.
Yeah, but the calendar, I started to go back and I actually made calendars for my campaign, or catalog the calendars. And interesting to see, now I don't have it in front of me here, but I made back to figure out where year 1 was. And it is interesting. I think the elves is like 6,000 years ago or something like that, because to me, it tells you something. If you have a calendar, year 1, sometimes it's just an arbitrary construction afterwards, but at least the ambition of it, you want to tell a story. We've been around this long or something like that. Our civilization, our faith, us ourselves have existed that long. So it seems like every culture that invents a calendar, and most of them do,
look at our character calendar. The BC goes in reverse.
Yeah.
It's like, what? How can you have reverse
But
years?
that is an after
Right,
construction,
exactly.
so
But
to
that's
speak.
the
Yeah.
reference
Mhm.
point that we
Yeah.
have now. It's just, it's
and
crazy.
also we didn't invent the calendar at year 1. It was
Right.
invented later, and then backtrack and say we set year 1 to that this is this year, so to speak.
Yeah, backtrack just like
Yeah.
a lot of stuff, like just like in Greyhawk too.
Yeah.
Lots of backtracking in Greyhawk.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Which I guess you need to do in order to get
Yeah.
some things accomplished here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And Sul,
Sulm was Rexellus. The destruction of Sulm took place about 2,000 years ago, I believe.
Okay,
So.
yeah.
2,000 years.
But we have this Sul calendar that is like over 6,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So that tells us when the early days of the Sul Empire
Yeah.
was more than 5,000 years back in history, which is kind of cool because that gives us a lot of leeway to do things with, so to speak. It would be much worse if it were 500 years ago. It's much better when it's so ancient that gives time is a resource you can play with, so to speak.
So I want to. This is a cool. Where's it on this map? The necropolis.
Necropolis of
Yeah,
Uga,
it's up here.
up on the
Yeah.
northeast there.
So
Yep.
I was like, well, what is this all about here? So this one, this site is well known to the Bright Desert nomads, but is never spoken of openly. The ancient burial ground of Sul, now lies rotted beneath the desert sun. The nomads believe it to be filled with gold and other treasures. So it's a typical crypt dungeon, right?
But that's another, because we have a couple of other necropolises up in the fell reefs and stuff like that. And you one way of interpret them is to say, well, that's where you bury your dead, like it's like a crypt or a catacombs or something like that. But I try to play around with, and now I'm going to get really morbid here for 1 minute, but
that's all right.
But it's like I'm starting to think, but what are the burial rituals of various cultures in the Flannies? And I realize if you have undeads, if undeath is a common thing, meaning if you bury your parents or your relatives in a graveyard next to your village, if there's any reasonable chance they might come up and haunt you at night, you don't do that. meaning you don't have graveyards. If that is a thing, then you don't bury them. You do something else with them. So I made a list of possible rituals for handling dead bodies and dead ones, so to speak. And one of them is to burn them or incinerate them using magic or something. And another one is to do, like in some cultures where you actually put them out there to let wild animals,
Sky burial.
Exactly, and let them eat them, and so you simply return the body to nature, so to speak, and that way you make sure that animals eat them and disperse them, so the leftovers will not come back and haunt you.
And there's also, Anna, speaking of kind of appropriate given the date.
Yeah.
I was going to say, also you have the idea that there are periods when your dead ancestors or loved ones can come and dine with you or drink with you, so you set aside. That's a big thing in some of my portrayals of the Flan, is that there's always the setting aside of food and drink for the dead on certain
and that's a great idea. One other idea I had for dealing with them is to find the deepest hole in the world, so to speak, the deepest hole in your area, and then dump them down there, so they will not come up, so to speak.
You guys are like Tim. You're also paranoid.
Oh no, but you have to. I'm thinking from the people there. If you had your relatives coming and haunt you, and if your uncle is angry at you and after death, and he will come and spook you out for real, then or the enemy will come and animate them and use them against you, you will make sure that doesn't happen. So I can see Flan necropolis as being really deep holes that they actually dumped them back in the day, which means that can be cool. So
that means they just get animated non-corporal and they float up as wraiths.
Yeah.
The thing for me is, like with the necromancy thing, I always assume just two things. I assume one I assume that
it's funny.
you know, the vengeful spirit, your vengeful ancestor coming after you,
Right.
is incentive not to piss off your ancestors.
Exactly. I was going to say that's
So
the
you
other
have a whole set
side.
of taboos and mores pertaining to how you treat the ancestors and how you treat your family.
You have to make peace with
and
them
clan.
when they die and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So,
And the other thing would be in terms of like in those areas where there is a suspicion that there will be how can I put it, that someone might resurrect your dead. You have hidden burial sites.
Yeah.
Burial sites where perhaps you and your people would know where they are. You know, perhaps if
you
you're
don't
nomadic.
mark your graves. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And another way is you guard them. You put them in the temple, and there's always guards and safeguards and stuff like that. But to me, that seems risky.
That seems more hierarchical too.
Exactly. Yeah, and also risky, unnecessarily risky. So burning is probably, or magically incinerate them is probably the.
We're off on a tangent and a half.
Oh yeah,
here.
it's a tangent, but I think it's an important one because it has a lot of implications. What decision you make as a DM and a world builder has a lot of implications on how your adventures unfold.
Given the number of necropolises and lost cities buried throughout the Bright Desert, it has some bearing.
Yeah,
true. But just I'm reading through here, and like, oh, well, this one has a lich, right? So all right, and there's
like it kind of depends too. I mean, on the type of undead that we're talking. Are we talking the lesser undead, your mindless hordes, or are we talking something that has volition and intent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a shadow dragon. This one named Smoke under Darkbridge Temple.
So we have Volt and Smoke there in there. So they're basic dragon names.
Yeah,
which I
definitely. But you know, there's a lot of good.
Before the dragons started putting on airs.
There's a lot of good information
simple dragon names.
In this area that you can really develop, and it sounds like if you can find the core modules, you may want to take a look at them and run them. You know,
or mine material from them. There's lots of good material in them.
Look, here's Shadowdos's Palace. So there's a lot of the Obsidian, Rari's whole locations are in here too. There's Rari's Fortress is in here. And if you want to go and fight and kill Rari and Roblar, so be it. You know, but Roblar gets undone in expeditions if you don't know already. You know, it's all they try and explain why he's really not Roblar. A lot of people don't like it. All right, so be it. Right.
Rexellus, I was going to say, if you're interested in the specific Flan cultures that were located in the Bright Desert prior to it becoming the Bright Desert, I highly recommend that the Silica piece that I mentioned that Mona wrote, and I recommend Broadhurst's Dominions of the Flanay piece from the old RPGA side.
Neat.
Since that has all the different groups. And it gives you a little bit about their cultural interest, and you can probably draw from that, infer stuff from that.
We blasted through this and almost to shout out time that quick. I mean, we just were talking. The chatting on this was great. So with the references there's plenty. You know, we got the Cannon Fire article, Rari the Trader, and its maps, the maps that come from it. If you can find. Like I said, I don't even know. Oh my God, where did I put my Rari the Trader? I probably buried it somewhere. If you can find this map, which is inside Rari the Trader, it's a lot larger. It has a lot more area in it, but it's cool. So that's here. You can get that, and then you can just pick and choose what you want, just like any DM should do. Find those that interest you and just develop them. Whether or not using Rari is the main element or not. Maybe you're running 576 and that hasn't happened yet. But all the other stuff's going to be here.
Oh, and one last thought I want to throw out there.
Yeah,
in the same way that everyone loves going to Castle Greyhawk and looting it and bringing stuff back.
Yep.
They do a good job in some of the Broadhurst and Luby and the rest do a great job of referring to the fact that part of Hardby's economy does really well because of people raiding the Bright Desert.
Makes sense.
And coming back with all sorts of artifacts.
And the Cairns. And the
Star Cairns. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. I know the Star Cairns are big on that too. And if you go to Anna's map, there's a lot. Like, I have a Harby game group. I have 3 venturing groups, as a matter of fact, in Harby. And we've done Ghost Tower of Inverness. That's the first time I had ever done it in all those years. And then this is mine too, Gravemore. That's my location. But here, there's 4 of the 5 star cairns on here. The hidden ones up here somewhere. 1, 2, 3. Oh, guess what? You can't see what I'm talking about.
No, I was just going to say we need to.
All right, so yeah,
Good.
Harby, Gravemore, mine. Star Cairn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a whole Star Cairn adventures. Of the 3, it's the least painful, right? Star Cairn, and then you have Crypts of Lizinger the Mad, and then Doom Grinder, right?
And then your favorite, Doom Grinder.
Oh my God, it's painful. But Star Cairns isn't bad. And you have the Pits of Ezexil here. You have your this big thing, which is a meteor strike, right, Anna? This big hole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of stuff.
A little bit too big,
lots of other things going on in this area of the border with Ernst and the Bright Desert, and you have all the references for the Bright Desert from all the ones we discussed tonight. With a lot of locations noted and a lot of room to add stuff yourself. So you have some new paint scale.
And there's a rich historic tapestry to kind of take from. So yeah.
So you're saying Alcazar's appendix works well out of Candlekeep Adventure. What level's that, Ron? I'll take a look. That's cool. I'm going to take a look on that from Candlekeep, Alcazar's appendix.
Rex Fellas, it was we went into that a little earlier with the Bright Desert being the result of the Scorpion Crown.
14 and 16 and 5e, so that's like 22nd and 1e2e. I'm just kidding. All right, I can always adjust. I'll take a look at it. Is that the next to last one, or the 2 from last? I know Tony's was the last one, Xanthoria. I'll take a look, man. Thank you for that recommendation. That's cool. So, yes, the Scorpion Crown caused the curse and turned them all into
man scorpion.
Yes, and then the Rock shows up. Well, that's a different movie. It's a Scorpion King, right? Yeah. Right before Xanthoria. All right, cool. So, any last comments and questions about this discussion, Anna and Les? And this has been great so far.
Yeah, and I've given me some new things to do on the map too and look into. So it's great. So yeah. And it's an interesting, slightly confusing, but kind of rich place to look into.
Excellent. And Les, thanks for all the data you brought.
No problem.
Thank you, Les.
I love, this is one of the things, Anna, this is one of the things where I tend to see some of the confusion as a feature rather than a bug.
Yep.
Because it's really neat, because even with the contradictions, you can work the contradictions in as different versions of the stories that you're
I totally agree. Yes.
So.
Yep.
And that's the great thing about it. You can always, there's no right or wrong way for Greyhawk. You can do whatever you want with your own setting, and make changes as you see fit. And that's the wonderful thing about it.
Yep.
No 2 DMs are the same, and no 2 Greyhawks are identical from players as well. So, and this is, like I said, we may talk about some other enigmatic areas that we haven't touched on, but this was a good one to get started with here. So let's go here, and any questions from the audience on this topic? I think we covered a lot.
Yeah.
Let me reverse pack stuff in here.
We got morbid at the end.
That's all right. That was entertainingly morbid.
Anna, we always get morbid at the end. I don't know. And sometimes at the beginning and sometimes in the middle.
We saved it until the end, though. That was good. Yeah.
It definitely was fun on that discussion. All right, let me start reverse engineering these in. I'm lucky if I remember what day of the week it is. No, that's backwards. All right, so would you like some cheese? Yes.
We should have a tuna sandwich for you, Jay.
I like a thin mint. Yeah, that's from a movie somewhere. Meaning of Life, right? Thanks, Mike. And Mike, hopefully you don't die Saturday, Scarn. So we'll talk about that in a second. All right. So, Les, what's going on with you, man?
Well, let's see. We resumed the campaign on Saturday with the first part of a 2-part Halloween one-shot.
Nice.
And my players, some of whom might be listening or will be listening later, doubtless hate me again. And it was good to
Uh-oh.
return to that and inspire, strong sentiment. Yeah, it was. I'll put it this way: a Halloween twofer set in Spine Castle. So what could possibly go wrong? Um, and let's see. Other than that, we'll be returning to the main campaign, and I've got a few other surprise projects that I'm working on. One of which, like I said, it was timely that you asked me about this stuff tonight because it's kind of tangentially related to some of the material
Perfect.
we covered. So,
Great.
but other than that, thanks, Enoch. I appreciate it. Tim's giving me Enoch Pratt is giving me a little bit of love in a chat I see.
Nice.
One of my players.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's going well. Other than that, I've been doing a ton of miniatures as well, painting up a ton of miniatures. Some of
Definitely.
which I've been showing you, Jay. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's going. So that's going well. Basically, I have no life.
I wouldn't. I
I
don't
mean,
know
none
about
of us
that.
have any life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about that, but it's good.
I'm
it's
kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Actually, everything's going well, and I'm enjoying
lots
myself.
of
That's
stuff
what counts.
going
That's
on,
good.
which is
Yep.
always wonderful. And
Mhm.
it's much appreciated you coming on and helping us out with this discussion tonight. Thank you so very much. With that, Les, always
Hey,
really
it's always a
appreciate it.
pleasure to come on with you guys.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have you.
Thank you. And so let's see, Anna, what's going on with you?
Well, I've done all the Death Knight heraldry. I'm just waiting for Gary's sign off on the last two, and he hasn't. So Gary, please, when you see this, can you return and say yes or no, or you have to work? Yeah. So
Ah,
that is almost done. So in the meantime, I'm doing two things here. I'm working on the Heraldry Compendium 1. That will be I'm doing some style guides and some ideas and stuff for that. So that's what I've been doodling in the background here. And I'm also working on, and that's one of the reasons I wanted this this topic tonight, because I'm working on Flanny's 3,000 years ago, something like that, a map for I guess I'll try and have my version of what Flanny's look like. And that will be a quarter scale of the normal map, so to speak. So I'm working on that about 3,000 or so years ago. So I'm working on that, and also the other big project right now is to get my new computer purchased and stuff. So I'm looking into what kind of components and stuff I'm going to get. So those are the main things I'm working on at the moment. So yeah.
Awesome. And then just note, so Ben Riggs was apparently at, the writer of the book that we discussed, was apparently at GameholeCon and got permission from Camera to take a whole bunch of pictures of Ed Greenwood's old maps. I used that to my advantage and downloaded a bunch of them. Hey, you're gonna put them out there. I'm gonna purloin them to assist in this discussion on Friday, November 18th with Ed Greenwood.
Yep.
So and that's
and I can say I've seen those maps in person.
Or because I'm not 100% sure on that one. Someone may be able to tell you. I'm not 100% sure how big that book is, but I'm assuming it's going to be a fairly large book with a lot of detail in it. But I haven't seen it yet or discussed it with them. But yeah, so this is so Ed Greenwood with Alyssa, Anna, and myself. That's our next fantasy mapping show this month. So it is 2 weeks from Friday.
Yep.
So and that will be coming up. So anything else going on, Anna?
No, that's about the big things going on at the moment. Yep.
Awesome.
Oh, there will be hopefully mapping stream Friday and a game Sunday. Yep.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah, our next game session is Sunday. So
make sure you advertise it for when it's coming.
Yeah, I'll try and do that. Yep.
Excellent. So, what's going on? No game tomorrow night, please remember that. So I will not be on tomorrow night. I will be around, but I will not be streaming tomorrow night. So I will be tied up, and so will be most of my players. So we just said, you know what, we're gonna skip this week. But I got a game Saturday morning that Anna's playing in, Mike Disney's playing in, April Hill, Stiletto Assassin, Rob Phantom, New Jersey, Tea Time with Taryn, she'll be a little late, but she'll be playing, Chuck Cumbo from Troller Games, and Bill the Master Crafter, and maybe even one other person. So we'll be playing, and that will be Skarn, which is Mike Storff in my campaign of Wolfmaster Keep, and the name of the adventure is Reckless. This is what happens when dwarves become reckless and dig too deep, right, Les? They shouldn't be digging too well. You'll see the story in a one shot. So
Yeah, exactly.
It'll be a wonderful fun adventure, and that will be on Saturday. Sunday night this week we continue with our Dungeon Magazine development, and we're going to hit a lot of these ones that Les was talking about on this as well. So we'll have some more supplemental information for tonight's discussion on Sunday night with some of the other things we're doing. So that'll be a blast, and that's Sunday. What's coming up beyond that? These are just some highlights. This is the big one. Saturday, November 12th, a week from Saturday night, 6 p.m., the Slav Squad 2-drink minimum crossover event. And now
Nice.
Eric Boyd is just confirmed tonight, so that adds in another person.
Excellent.
Yeah, so Ed, Tony, and Eric Boyd from 2-drink minimum. Mandy, Myriad, Bones, Darling, and probably Josh a little bit from the Slav Squad working together.
Mm-hmm.
So breaking the wave I put down, whatever that means. So we'll see. I may change the name, but that's what I have down now. And then the night after that, Sean Reynolds is on, and we'll talk about it. Slavers reference all his Living Greyhawk Journal, Gazette, publications, whatever else. 2 squat minimum. That's a funny. Yeah, it could be a mix. I can't wait. This is going to be crazy because you're going to have Bones talking about collecting teeth, and Ed's character is going to look. And then Darling talking about Darling's character, Rosie talking about eating cheese, and this is going to be. And Tony's character could be miserable. So it's gonna be hysterical. It'll be a fun night. And then Sean Reynolds on Sunday the night after, and then we got a lot more going on as we get along through the rest of the finishing up the year. Year 42 of the campaign. So, where'd the time go? Where has the time gone? All right, let's do the 2 giveaways. You got to get with me on what you want here. Some options in this pile: N1, N2, N3, and N4. You get your choice of 2. B3, B4, I2, X9, X5, X12, CM4. There's a fair amount here, and thank you, Patrick, Canadian Ancient Gamer, for a lot of those. But yeah, some good ones here. All right. November's huge, Curtis. Yes, I said we start off November on the Sunday night stream that we went through and had that discussion with Tanya, and now we're just keeping on cranking, with the exception of tomorrow night. That'll be the only really off night from normal streaming that I have. So yeah, well, you don't need to. N1. This is a classic Against the Cold of the Reptile God, a classic Greyhawk adventure. So you may have Galaxian. You may have some fun. You may have some good brand new adventures here that you don't know about that are 40, 45 years old. All right, I'm going to finish this up here, close this out. Don't hit a wrong button, Jay.
Whoopsie.
Oh, not yet. Well, thank you. Thank you, Joel. Here we go. Closing it out. First winner. It's a Casualty again. Oh my gosh, you won the Best of Dragon Volume 3.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Celtic Boar. Get with me via whisper and chat. Just at some point, okay. I don't have a game tomorrow night, so I don't have to worry about mailing out stuff quickly. But just let me know. Get with me, the 2 of you. But I have to depart here. And who are we raiding into tonight? I gotta figure this out.
Dun, dun, dun.
Initiative orders on. Oh my gosh, look at all the streams on. Jeez. I have to figure that out. What's initiative order doing? I don't see anyone doing Greyhawk content, right? Grouch Couch. I'm wandering here. Dr. Faust is on too. I may raid into Dr. Faust. Bones is on too. She's running video games. So All right. Anyone have wondering here? Thank you. Let's
Yeah,
just
thanks everyone.
yeah. Let's we'll hop into Dr. Faust. If that's okay with everyone, because he has some good crafting.
Oh yeah.
And we'll do that. And everyone, I'll see you Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m. 6:30 for Anna.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it'll be good. All right, we'll see you all soon, and have a good night. Hitting the wrong button. I hit the right button here. Look at that. Almost dead on. Let me set the rate up.
Good night. Thanks again.
Yeah, have a good one.
Yep. Good night.
All right, 75, 76. That's awesome. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll see you all soon. Thank you. All right. Make sure that went, and we're good.
Seems like it. Yep, it went to 75.
Excellent. Whoa, that went okay.
Yeah, it was great. The discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Les. That was awesome.